irksome it is to myself to rehearse in detail so sorrowful a history; wherefore, being minded to pass over so much thereof as I fairly can, I say that our city, being thus well nigh depopulated, it so happened, as I afterwards learned from one worthy of credit, that on a Tuesday morning after divine service, the venerable church of Santa Maria Novella was almost deserted, save for the presence of 7 young ladies, habited sadly in keeping with the season. All were connected either by blood or at last as friends or neighbors, and fair and of good understanding were they all, as also of noble birth, gentle manners, and a modest sprightliness. In age none exceeded 28, or fell short of 18 years. Their names I would set down in due form, had I not good reason to withhold them, being solicitous lest the matters which there ensue, as told and heard by them, should in after time be occasion of reproach to any of them, in view of the ample indulgence which was then, for the reasons herefore set forth, accorded to the lighter hours of persons of much riper years than they, but which the manners of to-day have somewhat restricted. Nor would I furnish material to detractors, ever ready to bestow their bite where praise is due, to cast by invidious speech the least slur upon the honour of these noble ladies. Wherefore, that what each says may be apprehended without confusion, I intend to give them names more or less appropriate to the character of each. The first, then, being the eldest of the 7, we will call Pampinea; the second, Fiammetta; the third, Philomena; the fourth, Emilia; the fifth we will distinguish as Lauretta; the sixth as Neifile; and the last, not without reason, shall be named Elisa. It was not of set purpose, but by mere chance, that these ladies met in the same part of the church; but at length grouping themselves into a sort of circle, after heaving a few sighs, they gave up saying Pater Nosters and began to converse, among other topics, on the times. So they continued for a while, and then Pampinea, the rest listening in silent attention, thus began: "Dear ladies mine, often have I heard it said, as you doubtless as well as I, that wrong is done to none by whoso but honestly uses his reason; and to fortify, preserve, and defend his life to the utmost of his power is the dictate of natural reason in every one that is born; which right is accorded in such measure that in defence thereof men have been held blameless in taking life. And if this be allowed by the laws, albeit on their stringency depends the well-being of every mortal, how much more exempt from censure should we, and all other honest folk, be in taking such means as we may for the preservation of our life? As often as I bethink me how we have been occupied this morning, and not this morning only, and what has been the tenor of our conversation, I perceive, and you will be readily do the like, that each of us is apprehensive on her own account; nor thereat do I marvel, but at this I do marvel greatly, that though none of us lacks a woman's wit, yet none of us has recourse to any means to avert that which we all justly fear. Here we tarry, as if methinks for no other purpose than to bear witness to the number of the corpses that are brought hither for the interment, or to hearken if the brothers there within, whose number is now almost reduced to naught, chant their offices at the canonical hours, or by our weeds of woe to obtrude on the attention of every one that enters the nature and degree of our sufferings. And if we quit the church, we see dead or sick folk carried about, or we see those who for their crimes were of late condemned to exile by the outraged majesty of the public laws, but who now, in contempt of those laws, well knowing that their ministers are a prey to death or disease, have returned, and traverse the city in packs, making it hideous with their riotous antics. Or else we see the refuse of the people, fostered on our blood, Vicini, as they call themselves, who for our torment go prancing about here and there and everywhere, making mock of our miseries and scurrilous songs. Nor hear we aught but, such and such are dead, or such and such are dying, and should hear dolorous wailing on every hand, were there but any to wail. Or go we home, what see we there? I know not if you are in like case with me, but there, where once were servants in plenty, I find none left but my maid, and shudder with terror, and feel the very hairs of my head to stand on end, and turn or tarry where I may, I encounter the ghosts of the departed, not with their wonted mien, but with something horrible in their aspect that appals me. For which reason church and street and home are alike distressful to me, and the more so that none, methinks, having means and place of retirement as we have, abides here save only we. Or if any such there be, they are of those, as my senses too often have borne witness, who make no distinction between things honourable and their opposites, so they but answer the cravings of appetite, and alone or in company do daily and nightly what things soever give promise of most gratification. Nor are these secular persons alone, but such as live recluse in monasteries break their rule, and give themselves up to carnal pleasures, persuading themselves that they are permissible to them, and only forbidden to others, and thereby thinking to escape are become unchaste and dissolute. If such be our circumstances, and such most manifestly they are, what do we hear? What we wait for? What dream we of? Why are we less prompt to provide for our own safety than the rest of the citizens? Is life less dear to us than to all other women? Or think we that the bond which unites soul and body is stronger in us than in others, so that there is no blow that may light upon it, of which we need be apprehensive? If so we err, we are deceived. What insensate folly were it in us to be so believed? We have but to call to mind the number and condition of those, young as we, and of both sexes, who have succumbed to this cruel pestilence, to find therein conclusive evidence to the contrary. Unless from lethargy or indolence we fall into the vain imagination that by some lucky accident we may in some way or another, when we would, escape. I know not if your opinion accord with mine. I should deem it most wise in us, our case being what it is, if, as many others have done before us, and are still doing, we were to quit this place, and shunning like death the evil example of others, betake ourselves to the country, and there live as honourable women on one of the estates, of which none of us has any lack, with all cheer of festal gathering and other delights, so long as in no particular we overstep the bounds of reason. There we shall hear the chant of birds, have sight of verdant hills and plains, of cornfields undulating like the sea, of trees of 1,000 sorts. There also we shall have a larger view of the heavens, which however harsh to usward, yet deny not their eternal beauty, things fairer far too deep to rest on that the desolate walls of our city. Moreover, we shall there breathe the fresh air, find ampler store of things meet for such as live in these times, have fewer causes of annoy. For though the husbandman dies there, even as here the citizens, they are dispersed in scattered homesteads, and 'tis thus less painful to witness. Nor so far as I can see is there a soul here whom we shall desert, rather we may truly say that we are ourselves deserted, for our kinsfolk being either dead or fled in fear of death, no more regardful of us than if we were strangers, we are left alone in our great affliction. No censure then can fall on us if we do as I propose, and otherwise grievous suffering, perhaps death, may ensue. Wherefore, if you agree, it is my advice, that attended by our maids, with all things needful, we sojourn, now on this, now on the other estate, and in such way of life continue, until we see, if death should not first overtake us, the end which heaven reserves for these events. And I remind you that it will be at least as seemly in us to live with honour as in others, of whom there are not a few, to stay with dishonour. The other ladies praised Pampinea's plan, and indeed were so prompt to follow it, that they had already begun to discuss the matter in some detail, as if they were forthwith to rise from their seats and take the road, when Philomela, whose judgment was excellent, interposed, saying, "Ladies, though Pimpinea has spoken to most excellent effect, yet it were not well to be so precipitate as you seem disposed to be. Bethink that we are all women, nor is there any here so young, but she is of years to understand how women are minded towards one another, when they are alone together, and how ill they are able to rule themselves without the guidance of some man. We are sensitive, perverse, suspicious, pusillanimous, and timid, wherefore I much misdoubt that if we find no other guidance than our own, this company is like to break up sooner, and with less credit to us than it should, against which it were well to provide at the outset. Said the Eliza, without doubt man is woman's head, and without man's governance, it is seldom that aught that we do is brought to a commendable conclusion. But how are we to count by the men? Every one of us here knows that their kinsmen are for the most part dead, and that the survivors are dispersed, one here, one there, we know not where, bent each on escaping the same fate as ourselves. Nor were it seemly to seek the aid of strangers, for as we are in quest of health, we must find some means so to order matters that, wherever we seek diversion or repose, trouble and scandal do not follow us. While the ladies were thus conversing, there came into the church 3 young men, young, I say, but not so young that the age of the youngest was less than 25 years, in whom neither the sinister course of events, nor the loss of friends or kinsfolk, nor fear for their own safety, had availed to quench, or even temper, the ardour of their love. The first was called Pamphilo, the second Philostrato, and the third Dioneo. Very debonair and chivalrous were they all, and in this troublous time they were seeking if haply, to their exceeding great solace, they might have sight of their fair friends, all 3 of whom chanced to be among the said 7 ladies, besides some that were of kin to the young men. At one and the same moment they recognized the ladies and were recognized by them, wherefore with a gracious smile Pampinea thus began: Lo, fortune is propitious to our enterprise, having vouchsafed us the good offices of these young men, who are as gallant as they are discreet, and will gladly give us their guidance and escort, so we but take them into our service. Whereupon Neifila, crimson from brow to neck with the blush of modesty, being one of those that had a lover among the young men, said, For God's sake, Pampinea, have a care what you say. Well assured am I that naught but good can be said of any of them, and I deem them fit for office far more honourous than this which you propose for them, and their good and honourable company worthy of ladies fairer by far, and more tenderly to be cherished than such as we. But it is no secret that they love some of us here, wherefore I misdoubt that, if we take them with us, we may thereby give occasion for scandal, and censure merited neither by us nor by them. That, said Philomela, is of no consequence. So I but live honestly, my conscience gives me no disquietude. If others asperse me, God and the truth will take arms in my defence. Now, should they be disposed to attend us, of a truth we might say with Pampinea, that fortune favours our enterprise. The silence which followed betokened consent on the part of the other ladies, who then with one accord resolved to call the young men, and acquaint them with their purpose, and pray them to be of their company. So without further parley, Pampinea, who had a kinsman among the young men, rose and approached them where they stood, intently regarding them, and greeting them gaily, she opened to them their plan, and besought them on the part of herself and her friends to join their company on terms of honourable and fraternal comradeship. At first the young men thought she did but trifle with them, but when they saw that she was in earnest, they answered with alacrity that they were ready, and promptly, even before they left the church, set matters in train for their departure. So all things meet being first sent forward in due order to their intended place of sojourn, the ladies with some of their maids, and the 3 young men, each attended by a man servant,